got to read 14 books last year. I had a rough reading year last year. This year I'm going to attempt to read way more than that. But also, I just want to fall in love with reading again. Because I wasn't making videos last year, I didn't get to tell you the books that I read. The first book that I read last year was The Midnight Library. I believe I live in the city. My first book of last year was Midnight Library. I ended up giving this 3 stars. This one was about a girl that wants to herself, but she goes into this library and she sees what her life is like in these alternate realities, alternate universes, and we just follow her along, seeing how good one world is or how bad, how worse it can be or how better it could be. That kind of situation. I gave it 3 stars because I felt like it was kind of preachy. I did like it. I didn't love it. So it was a solid 3-star for me. So the next book I ended up reading was All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. This one I actually annotated. I really did enjoy this book. It was one of my first big reads of the year. I think this had close to 600 pages. Yeah, 559 pages. This did take me a while to read, but I actually got through it. This is small town, age gap romance, single dad. If I'm hitting any buzzwords, check it out. It's actually really good. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was A Dawn of Onyx. I read this because it was for a book club that only happened one time. I read it for that, and this was not my typical something I gravitate towards. I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. It was something that I didn't really want to read to begin with. So yeah, A Dawn of Onyx. The next book I read was Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean, and this was basically the Princess Diaries. I'm gonna be honest though, it's kind of forgettable. I'm trying to remember how I felt about this and I can't remember a single thing that happened in this book. I gave it a 4-star and I must have really loved it when I read it. It hasn't had an impression on me. I did like it. It was blurbed by Catherine McGee, who wrote American Royals, and I absolutely adore that series. Apparently I adored this, but it was not hitting me the way American Royals has. So yes, I do recommend though, because apparently I did love it. It just didn't stay in my mind. The next book I read was The Sign for Home by Blair Fell, and I adored this book so much. This one was a 5-star. It's basically about this deaf-blind guy named Dilly. He's actually really handsome, and he is in this, he's being taken care of by this pastor who's kind of corrupt and doesn't want him to experience life the way that he should be experiencing it. We follow Dilly, but we also follow his interpreter. He helps him in a way that in real life it would totally not be okay to help someone like that as an interpreter, but in this context he helps him in a way realize that he should be living his life more than he actually is. He goes on this quest to find this girl that he has had a crush on when he was younger, and it was just so beautiful. There's also a guide dog, I believe. Yes, the guide dog. And I don't know, it was just a fun old time, fun adventures. As someone who is studying to be an interpreter, an American Sign Language interpreter, I thoroughly enjoyed this. So if this tickles your fancy, what is that saying? Sorry. If this sounds like something you might enjoy, I would definitely pick it up because it was a grand old time. The next book that I read after that was My Evil Mother by Margaret Atwood. This was the same author who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. I have not read The Handmaid's Tale, but I did see some of the TV show. I don't think I've ever finished it. This was a wild ride. There was some witchy elements to it, set in the 1950s. This was kind of just a filler read for me, because at this point I was wow, I haven't read anything. So I think I just picked this up because it was really short on Kindle Unlimited. So I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Next book I have is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one broke my heart. I'm not gonna lie. So this one is basically this girl. Her name is Elsie, and she meets this guy picking up food, I think. And they hit it off, instantly start dating. Within like a few weeks of knowing each other, they decide to elope. And not only like 9 days later, Ben dies in an accident. And it's just the story of like grief, because she still is like, she's like married to this person, but she doesn't really know a whole lot about him, and like haven't met his parents and stuff like that. So like it's intense, but man was it good. I really enjoyed this. I believe I gave this a 4 stars on Goodreads, but thinking back, it's probably like a 4.5. This was genuinely really good, and I definitely recommend it. It's also a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, so come on. Anything that she writes is pretty much guaranteed to be good. So the next book I decided to read was Out There by Kate Folk. This is a collection of short stories, and they're just what the title says, they're kind of out there. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think my favorite story in here, I have a bookmark in here. It was Heart Seeks Brain. That one was my favorite. It kind of reminded me of like Black Mirror episodes, especially because they were all different short stories that weren't necessarily connected, but kind of like the same theme. Oh, I gave it 4 stars. Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I recommend. The next book I read last year was Verity by Colleen Hoover. I know Colleen Hoover's kind of like a touchy subject, so I'm just gonna briefly mention it. This was Colleen Hoover's like one of her few thrillers, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I gave this like a 4 star or 4.5. The twists were crazy. I really liked it. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to keep on talking about it, but like it did happen last year, so I did read this last year. So the next book I read after that was Since You've Been Gone by, what is this, Morgan Matson. And this one, it's a YA. A girl's friend goes missing, and she leaves her this like to-do list, like kiss a stranger, dance until dawn, go skinny dipping, that kind of thing. I gave this a 4 star. Looking back, it might be a 3. It was cute for what it was. It had like these little playlists in there that I would listen to when I finished a chapter, or whenever I was done reading in that section that had the playlist, I would like put it on. So yeah, it was a cute little time. The next book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I gave this book 3 stars. This was not my favorite Emily Henry book. This was my second book by her, and as y'all know, I love People We Meet on Vacation, but this didn't do it for me at all. So I'm kind of nervous to pick up another book by her, but basically this is like 2 authors that meet. They both have like summer beach homes or whatever, and they meet. They write different styles. So like one writes romance, the other one like writes literary fiction, and they swap. It was okay. It wasn't People We Meet on Vacation, and I think I had such a high expectation for this book. Maybe if I'd read it first, it would have been higher, but because of the order that I read the books, it makes me nervous to pick up another Emily Henry book, I'm not gonna lie. But hopefully it's not terrible. So the next book that I read was The Housemaid by Frida McFarlane. That one was a 5 star. Let me tell you, I was on the edge of my seat. I kind of want to own it, like actually, because I read it on Kindle Unlimited. I need to buy me a copy because wow, all the hype that Frida McFarlane has gotten like lived up, especially for that book. It lived up to it, so I'm kind of curious about continuing on with the series, but also just continuing on reading Frida McFarlane books. I think they're gonna be a good time, and I'm excited. The next book I read, Leanings by Neil Shusterman, and going into this, I didn't know it was like short stories about the world that Neil Shusterman had created when he did the Scythe world. I had no idea. I thought it was a continuation. As much as like I kind of wish it was a continuation, it was just so fun to be back in the world of like the Scythe world. I don't remember what the world was called. I really liked it, and I think his son wrote some of the stories too. I listened to this also on audio, and there were different actors for the different voices, and I love when audiobooks do that. I gave this a 4 stars. The final book that I read was Scream for Us by, who is this by? Molly Doyle. And the reason I picked this up was because of Christina's chapters. She was ranting, raving, like squealing, screaming, hollering, throwing up about this book on TikTok. I was influenced. I don't know if the book was necessarily something I would have picked if I knew what it was going into it, but I should have known because it's Christina. I just knew it was short. It was around Halloween time, and I needed something to read because I was in the mood to read. Let's just say it's very smutty. It's more than I'm used to, like way more than I'm used to. Now with that being said, I enjoyed it. It was a book I probably won't go back to say the least. I was like, my innocent eyes. What am I reading? But yes, that is all the books that I read in 2023. A whopping 14. Hey, at least it was something, okay? I tell people that in like real life and they're like, wow, 14 books. I'm like, yeah, be proud of me. I'm a reader. Here's 215 this year. I mean, most likely it's gonna be way more, but you know, setting the bar low. If you guys are curious about my stats, my average rating was a 3.9. My pages read for the year was 4,708. The shortest book I read was 32 pages. The longest book I read was 572 pages. The average book length was 336 pages. I'm okay with that. I accepted it. It is what it is. This year's already kind of popping off for me so far when it comes to reading, so I'm already like excited about reading again and have been consistently reading this month. Hopefully it'll continue. If you like this video and like me as a person, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below of your favorite book of last year that you read. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.